Hello, good evening, and welcome, as David Frost once said. It's great to be here. I hope you've been enjoying the webinars in this Changemaker Summit series. We've certainly had a lot of fun and learned a lot in the process ourselves. And I want to come back to that a little bit later as I tell you about the exciting news that we're going to be launching the Changemakers Network this evening. So if you've ever wanted to belong to a network that you could be proud of, that can help you in terms of making change happen in your own life or in your own community, then this is the network for you. So we're going to be coming back to that later, but I wanted to start off by just reflecting on some of the key messages that we've heard this week. So a little bit of a summary, if you like, of what's going on. So just pull up the slide for that 1 second. And choose that one there. Here we go. So on Monday, we started off Monday evening. It was Pete Jacob, Angie Beeston and myself, and we were talking about how to be more productive. And that's a key skill, as we discussed, for all change makers, because what we decided was that the number one skill for a change maker is prioritization. Until you've decided what your priorities are, not just at work, not just in your family life, but in your life altogether, then actually it becomes very difficult to make progress. So as a change maker, you're going to need to think hard about your priorities in life and what it is you really want to do with your time, your most precious resource. So that was Monday. And for those of you that are interested in learning more about how to be super productive and to master your time, we were offering at that time an opportunity for you to join in a program that Pete and I will be running online that's starting very soon. So just pop back to that one if you're interested in finding out more about that. Then on Tuesday, we were joined by the irrepressible Vanda North and the wonderful Nikki Carew, and they told us all about how to create a workplace of well-being in the morning, and then in the evening, how to build your resilience. And again, what an amazing set of webinars they were. And in particular, the evening one, in terms of building your resilience, generated a lot of response. And thank you for those of you who sent your comments in. I know that Vanda and Nikki really appreciated that. It's an incredible resource to be resilient, and they were giving you lots of tips and ideas on how to be more resilient. And if you want to find out even more, again, pop back to the webinar and have a look at what they were recommended in terms of resources. On Wednesday, during the day, we were talking about how to be more engaging to develop a high-performing workplace. And then in the evening, Sue Wellman and I introduced you to a new coaching tool called Motivate Cards, which helps you really understand and get to the bottom of not just what motivates you, but importantly, what's demotivating you at this moment in time. And the cards that we introduced you to are a fantastic tool for life coaches everywhere to get their hands on and help them really understand their client before they get too far into the relationship and burn up a lot of time in terms of developing that understanding of what's driving their clients right now. So we've used that tool with people switching career. We've used it with teams. It's an excellent tool, and I would recommend it to you. All the links for all of these pieces of information and tools, they'll all be on the website, and we'll email them out to you as we progress beyond the summit. Then yesterday in the morning, Malcolm Follis, David Horn, and Susan Papula did a fantastic job of explaining what it takes to bring your vision and strategy to life inside an organization. And of course, much of that is applicable in our own lives. Until we have a set purpose and until we're clear on exactly it is what we're trying to achieve, then actually bringing our own vision for our own lives to life is difficult. So that was an exciting session yesterday lunchtime. And then last night, Nigel Langhorne and myself introduced you to how do you deploy your natural style as a leader. Now, everybody can be a leader, no matter what you do in life. Whether you're part of a team, you can lead from within. Whether you're a member of a family, you can lead on lots of activities and things that you want to do together. And so the essential requirement behind all of that is, how do you build great relationships? And we introduced you briefly to a tool called Clarity 4D, which is the tool of choice, if you like, within the Changemaker group, because it's so simple and easy to apply, and also very affordable. So again, you can pop back and find out more about that if you have the time. Now, the next thing, the diagram there, is actually what we discussed at lunchtime today, when David Walker and who else was on the line? Nigel Langhorne and myself were talking to you about what it takes to deliver projects successfully. And the common denominator, of course, behind all of it is people. People, that soft skill that's actually the hardest to achieve. And we introduced you to the Changemaker model called the Delta model. And that's the approach that we take, regardless of what systems you're using to manage your projects. That's the approach we take when managing our change projects. And I forgot to mention, on Wednesday morning, it was Nikki Carew and Simon Hardacre who were telling us all about how to create a high-performing organization, real experts on creating that level of engagement and developing a coaching culture inside your organization. So that's a quick survey, a summit, if you like. So I'll get the right words out in a moment. That's a summit review of what we've done this week. So I hope that's whet your appetite. If you're just tuning in right now because you've had a mad week, please pop back in. We're going to have those available on replay all week, so you can enjoy them maybe while you're cooking supper over the weekend, or just driving in your car next week. Capture the voice part of that, the audio part of that, and you can have a listen in. Okay, and even when you're listening to those on replay, you'll be able to find, you'll be able to ask us questions, and those will be emailed through to us regardless of the topic, and we'll get right back to you. Okay, so that's what we have done so far. Let's get on to tonight's topic, which is how to make change happen. And here is a sort of a personal version of the Delta change model that we discussed today in terms of organizational change. And what the way this model works is that we always start at diagnose, then we move through engage, up to lead, and then through transformation, and then we can accelerate. And this model works really well in every change situation that you can imagine. In fact, let me give you a quick example. I was mentoring someone a couple of years back who hadn't long come through what was quite a painful divorce. And when we were reviewing this model to talk about how they were going to move forward with their business, we actually started to uncover some ideas and thoughts that really crystallized for her the reasons why the divorce had been so painful. And it came about when we were discussing what would be, in organizational terms, stakeholder analysis. So if you do that in an organizational sense during the diagnose phase, one of the things that you uncover is that there are some people that will have something to lose from the change that you're trying to put in place, and there are others that have something to win. And there are some that have both of those things. They have something to lose and something to win. And actually, the title that we use for those people is torn. And in the context of this person who, this mentee of mine who was still suffering the impact of a very traumatic divorce, what she realized was her in-laws were that torn set of people. So they'd had a very close relationship, and just because the relationship between her and her husband had fallen apart, his parents were in that position whereby they were completely torn. They obviously loved their son and wanted to be there for him, but they had a huge sense of loss in terms of feeling that they had effectively lost a daughter. And what the insight, if you like, the light bulb moment for my mentee there was that she hadn't done enough to maintain that relationship with her in-laws during that traumatic period, primarily because she was confused and didn't really understand what was going on, and didn't have clarity on what she needed to do. Had she been exposed to this model in advance, she would have taken some time to think about all of the key people in her support network, including the family of her estranged husband. So that would have really helped, and she was grateful for having been exposed to it, if you like, in the context of her situation, but also recognizing it could have made things 10 times better at the time. So the key here from dealing with personal change is that we need to diagnose, get an absolutely real perspective on what's going on right now for us. So if we are in that position of wanting to make change happen, we need to be really clear on what is happening right now. What is the situation? Imagining going an ascent of Everest. What's in your backpack as you start out on this journey? With that knowledge, who's there? Who are your support network? What things do you have that you can look at and say, yes, this is going to get me through? What things can you set aside because they're not going to help you right now? All of that stuff is critical to take stock of at the initial start, the initial point of trying to make change happen or embarking on change in your life. And sometimes when we have change thrust upon us, let's say, for example, we're made redundant, or like my client, somebody, a partner decides that they no longer want to be with us. Whatever the situation, we can take real stock of how we feel about that, what is real and what is not. And we can almost detach ourselves a little bit for a while from the emotion of the process. Then we're into engaging, and that's all about really understanding, building our resources, making sure we've got everything we need, making sure that we are feeling robust and that we have techniques for maintaining our resilience throughout the journey. We have a clear view of what we're trying to achieve, and we map that out so that we can every single day make some progress, or at least review, have we made some progress today? And then onto the lead part of the model, we have to take responsibility. And I think it's at that point when we really take responsibility for our lives that we can make dramatic change a reality in our lives. Up until that point, it's all a maybe or a might happen. So the leadership piece is all down to us. And one of the things that I want to talk about later when we think about the Changemakers Network is, how responsible do you feel for the things that are going on in your community, the things that are happening in your family, the things that are happening in work? I know that one of the people tuning in earlier in the week, when we were talking about creating a workplace of well-being, Nikki said, actually, well, I think both Nikki and Vanda said, the key is to take personal responsibility. How can you make the place that you work in a better place to work? And so that this notion of personal responsibility comes in at a corporate level. It definitely comes in on a personal level. At that point, we've taken responsibility. Now we can act. Now we can transform our lives. by actually following through on the plans that we've created. And in doing so, we can influence an awful lot of people. Everyone around us is going to be positively influenced by the change if we're doing it from the right mindset and if it's coming from our hearts. So the transform stage is easier if you've put enough time into the diagnose, engage, and lead phases of your process. Accelerating is just the confidence that grows, that builds inside you when you know that you can do this, and you can do it reliably and consistently, and you can bring about change in your life that gives you that sense of confidence that the next time you're hit by the next wave of change, whether that's at work or in life, you are resilient enough to cope with it. And sometimes that's all you need, is the ability to cope with change long enough to then thrive on change. And I want to just finish this review of the Delta model by sharing with you my own story over the last nearly 20 years. So 1997, I was working with the artist formerly known as Anderson Consulting, now Accenture, and I was doing really well. I was loving my job. I was a change management consultant, working with some great clients, had some fantastic colleagues, and it felt like a really dynamic environment where we were pushing the boundaries of what was understood about how to make change happen. Everything was going great until someone in a white van decided to crash into me as I was driving home one afternoon. And 26 hours later, I woke up having survived a near-death crash. My car had overturned and I had all sorts of injuries. But what happened at that point was my whole perspective on life changed. I didn't realize it immediately. I think you're in a state of, am I going to get over these injuries? But once I was through that, I realized that actually life was too short to waste it on doing things that didn't make my heart sing every day, that didn't make me want to jump out of bed and be the sort of person that I knew I had the potential of being. Well, let me just correct myself there. I didn't know I had the potential of being all those things then, but an awful lot of people around me said that I did. And I'm guessing you've got people around you right now that absolutely look at you every day and say you have limitless potential. And whether or not you're using all of that right now is irrelevant. But for me, it was a dawning realization after the crash that yes, I had more to offer. And by 2000, I was married. I had started my own business. The business was working very successfully. I had some amazing clients right out of the door, people like Lloyd's and EasyJet and a couple of others, Allied Dunbar, and even the poacher turned gamekeeper, or the other way around, the gamekeeper turned poacher, because I had Anderson Consulting on my books as well. So everything was going great, and within the next few years, my two boys came along in 2001 and 2005, and literally everything couldn't have been better. But then in 2007, my world started to fall apart a little bit, in as much as take a breath. I lost my best mate. My dad died in 2007, and in 2008, my wife and I split. And the biggest fear I had at that stage was my fear of losing my boys, or losing that constant touch with my boys. So it was a case of, right, I need to restructure, reorganize, if you like, and get clear on what it is that I want to do with my life. The one thing I knew I didn't want to happen was for my boys to grow up in an environment where there was constant arguments between their parents. And so that was my real focus. for that first couple of years of splitting with my wife. It was all about, let's get this right for the boys. Let's get, well, nothing else. Let's get this right for the boys. That's all it was. And with that absolute clear focus, we're coming back to that point about leadership. With that real clear focus, I was then able to act on a daily basis, and it is daily. Those of you who've been through those sorts of splits in your family, you'll know that it's not something you do once and then it's done forever. It's a daily thing to consider, so that you can always do the right thing. However, it didn't stop there. My business was dramatically impacted by all of those events, but also my mind was whirring by now. I think it was that sense of real responsibility was kicking in, and my understanding of responsibility extended beyond my immediate family responsibilities. And I started to think about, how can we share some of these skills and knowledge that I'd been fortunate to pick up in my career to help others who are dealing with change as well. And one of the big things that I did was get involved with a social enterprise in 2010. And some of you who are on the call this evening, or I know are going to be watching on the replay, will know all about that activity. It was an exciting time, and I plowed all of my heart and all of my emotions into that enterprise, only to find a few years into the enterprise, when I had invested all my time and somewhat taken my eye off my financial responsibilities to my own family, only to find that the founders of that social enterprise were slightly less ethical than everybody had imagined and hoped for. So there I am, 2013, broke, absolutely in debt, and a big dream had been burst. But what I did was I diagnosed my situation accurately. It would have been very easy to just focus on the negative components of what was happening for me right then. Oh, I'm full up with debt. Oh, these people have let me down. Or it's a disaster, and where's the next penny coming from? But that was not how I responded. With the tool, I was able to say, hold on, the reality is I've got two amazing boys who are growing up fast and are cheekier than their dad. I've got all my resources, all my faculties. I've got my brains and my skills, and I've got, really importantly, I've got an amazing network that had actually only grown stronger during that period that I was talking about. The people around me are just amazing. And that was an absolute reality then, and it's an absolute reality now. And so with all of that in stock, I then started to think, so how am I going to turn this around? Who are the key people in my support network that I need to reach out to now and engage with to change my life and to bring about the type of life that I want to design, rather than feeling like I'm being controlled by somebody else? And in all of that process, I also managed to bump into the love of my life and my current wife. So it's not a bad process. And we went from there to, I got some work to do. I got some clients to work with, and we've been building it up ever since. And in 2015, as well as getting married, I founded the Changemaker Group, and you've been meeting them all week. And I hope you agree that they are an amazing group of people. And that's just scratching the surface of some of the people that in the network that are out there day in, day out, trying to make things better for the people around them. So that's how the models help me. I hope that gives you some insight as to its power, because really that was a tough few years. However, I know that there are people out there who are in much worse situations than that. And that also adds to your own resilience when you're trying to move forward with your own life. It's not all about you, as I say to lots of people. So that's a little bit of an insight into how the model works in reality. And so I just want to move on now to talk about what it is, if you like, that makes these models and this particular approach so powerful. But before we do that, I've got a question I want to ask you all, because I know that we are right now, we're at a time when the world is changing incredibly quickly. It's the pace of change has picked up amazingly just in the last 50, in that period I was talking about, between 1997, when I think it took about 5 minutes to get onto the internet, if for those of you who remember, to now, where I can sit in my, excuse me, in my house, and I can communicate effectively to the whole world with no effort by clicking a few buttons. So, but it's not all good. In fact, a lot of change can be quite overwhelming. And I wanted to just ask you, the people watching this right now, whether you're on replay or whether you're watching it live, just ask yourself this question. I think we've got a poll for you coming right up. So how often do you feel overwhelmed by change? All the time, regularly, sometimes, rarely, or never? I'm pleased to see some nevers in there. That's absolutely wonderful. Some rarelies, some sometimes. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, another 30 seconds. It is a reality though, and you don't have to look very hard to find what the impact of all this change is on people in terms of their feeling that they can cope, and feeling, to use the word that Nikki Carew was stressing earlier in the week, feeling that they're in control of their own lives. My wife and I are pleased to be associated with a charity called CALM, which is the campaign against living miserably. And that is a charity that's been born out of the fact that the fastest growing group of suicidal people are those that are young men. And you know, that incidence of depression is almost epidemic in our society. And so yeah, as I say, you don't have to look that far. So the results are, I don't know if you can see the results, but the results are 70% of you say that sometimes you're feeling overwhelmed by change, 20% rarely, and 10% never. So I want to find that person who's 10% never, or the people who are 10% never, and spend some more time with them, because that's exactly the place that we all want to be. And it's the place where I'm hoping through the network we can help people to get to that point such that they never feel overwhelmed. They never feel disconnected from a support network. A couple of years back, I did a report for a charity, a homeless charity. And during the research for that report, it suddenly dawned on me that what a lot of homeless people don't have is a support network. So many of the people who are on the streets in London, for example, it's not that they've made necessarily bad choices. Quite often, they've maybe lost their parents. Maybe they have been, they've fallen out with their siblings. Maybe they've lost their job and have got into incredible amounts of debt. And what they are missing is a change maker to sit alongside them and say, come on, we can do this. You can do this. Let's work on a solution that's going to make change happen for you and bring about positive change. Because all they're missing is that support network. And that's what these amazing street charities do for these people, is provide them with that support network that you and I probably sometimes take for granted. So so thank you for your feedback on that. The point about all this, of course, is that where we want to be is more proactive. We want to feel that we've got the tools and the resilience and the resources available to us that can help us shape our own future. The reason why we say, let's make change happen, rather than let's manage change or let's cope with change, is we want to be feel like we're in that position where we're in control. And I've got a great picture I want to share with you. That I was talking earlier with one of our amazing change makers in the group, Vanda North, who many of you met earlier this week, and she talks about this person as a wobbly man. I remember Weebles. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down when I was a kid. And the point of it is that's how some of us can feel sometimes, that big hand, other people are controlling us. That's when the feeling and sense of overwhelm kicks in, when we don't feel in control. However, the great thing about Mr. Wobbly Man here is as soon as that hand is let go, and sometimes that's just about shouting out loud almost, leave me alone. And that's about saying to those thoughts in your head, thank you very much, but I don't need you right now. What happens is we might wobble around a little bit. We might actually, move from side to side with that new change, and we might feel a bit off balance. But we always know from your memory that eventually it comes back to rest. And that's what happens to us. And where we need to be is at a point where we are resilient enough. We have the skills to be able to cope with change such that whatever change comes along, we know we're going to be okay. And the reason for wanting to build the Changemaker Network is because there are an increasing number of people out there that need people that are 100% resilient, that are rarely impacted by the change that's happening around them to the extent that they can't cope. And so the Changemaker Network is about bringing people together to learn together and to share experiences and to start to influence our own communities, whether that be in work, whether that be at home, to make that sort of positive change that we're talking about. And sometimes that change can be prompted by the most insignificant thing. And I want to just show you something. When I was telling you earlier about that time when the money was really tight back in 2013, I was in debt, and I hadn't realized just how bad it had got. I was so focused on doing everything I could to build that social enterprise I was telling you about, that I'd got distracted from doing the necessary things to keep my family afloat. And this is one of 4 money boxes that my eldest son had at the time, and I was trying to teach him all about money and how to look after it, short-term savings, long-term savings, that sort of thing. And this was his 10% charity jar. And the reason why I show you that is because this is what I was confronted with when I came home one day, and it was my wake-up call. I suddenly realized that we as a family, myself and my 2 boys, had eaten actually 8 of these fridge packs of Heinz baked beans in a very short space of time. That was effectively what we were living on. It was lots of beans on toast. There was beans with chips. There was beans with jacket potatoes. Whatever you can imagine, it was the Philips household equivalent of Spam. And it was literally out the corner of my eye, I spotted these 8 Heinz baked beans savings cans on the windowsill. And it suddenly struck me that actually I now need to take responsibility. I now need to change my perspective, regain control over my life, and decide what I want, as opposed to constantly worrying about what I don't want. And so the title of the slide there is Delta in Action, because it really was Delta in action. It was that diagnosis of where I was. It was the engagement to know that I needed to have a clearer vision of what I wanted to achieve with my life. And then it was about personal responsibility and leadership to start to transform my life, galvanize the people around me, and accelerate the results that we can achieve together. So a lot of my colleagues talk about the fact that I'm a very collaborative person and that I like to work with others. It's absolutely true. But I hope that you can see with that Delta model just how essential that is if we are really going to make the best impact on the world that we can make. Absolutely, there are individuals that have fantastic ideas. There are individuals who are great project managers. There are individuals who can get alongside people and motivate others to do things. But there's no one individual that's ever achieved amazing change in the world on their own. There's always a team. And I'm blessed to be working with an amazing team within the Changemaker Group. And I hope that now, with the launch of the Changemakers Network, we can create a team that goes right the way across the globe and enables everybody to feel supported. So I believe Malcolm was talking about in his session on bringing vision to life. He talked about Coca-Cola's vision of having a drink available at arm's length to everybody that's thirsty in the world, or something like that. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if we joined together in a network that meant that everyone in the world was only ever an arm's length away from somebody who could support them and had the resources and the skills and the ability to support them and help them bring about change in their own lives? Well, that's the vision, if you like, that I have with the Changemakers Network, which is what I want to talk about to you now. So I hope you've enjoyed what I've been able to share with you this evening. The Changemakers Network, though, is actually the bringing to life of a dream that I've had for quite some time. I had to put it aside for a few years while I was rebuilding and getting myself strong, and also starting to pull together an amazing network of my own. But now we're ready to launch, and it's been this week. It's been literally this afternoon that we've pulled some of the details of this together, because what this week has taught me, and I hope that some of you get some similar light bulb moments for you that, from reviewing the summit sessions. What this week has taught me is that we can all do more. We can all make a bigger impact, and we can all do more to help others. And that's what the Changemakers Network is going to be all about. Now, I'm not sure, because this has all been very quickly pulled together. I'm not sure where we are with. Yeah, okay, I can show this slide, and then then I'll carry on talking while you're looking at it. Okay, so the mission of the Changemakers Network is to inspire, educate, and connect people that want to make change happen across the globe. Actually, it's a very specific vision. I want to see if we can pull together 1 million change makers across the globe. Now, that sounds like a very far-fetched ambition, sitting here on a Friday evening, anticipating my first glass of red wine in a few minutes. But actually, it's a very serious one. I think there's, and you've told me this is not just me saying this. I think there's a need for more change makers in the world. And what we are inviting you that are listening to the call now, or those of you that are watching on a replay, we are inviting all of you, and that includes the people that are absolutely closest to me in my network and my work colleagues, the people in the Changemaker group, which is the sort of corporate facing side of what we do. Anybody in that group and anybody that's watching, anybody that has friends that are real change makers, I'd like you to go and talk to them and invite them to join us, because right now we're going to open it up, and the first 100 people will be effectively to sign up, will be founding members of the Changemaker Network. So I've created a link here, and I want to thank Ian McMillan, who's been absolutely amazing all week in helping us pull all of this together technically. And but what Ian is much more than a technician. He's an absolute visionary as well, and a great marketing brain, to say the least. And I've really appreciated his support this week. So there's the link for you to find out more. But let me tell you a little bit more about what we're trying to do here. Just imagine what it would be like to have a network in your area of people that were like you, that wanted to make change happen, that wanted to support others in their community, in their family, in the workplace. So this really is going to be a network, as it says on there, a network you can be proud to be part of. And it's something where, you know, very rapidly, I hope we can get to a point where we have a network and we weave networks together with a complete focus on making change happen and having a positive impact on the world. So that's what the Changemakers Network's all about. And it's not fully formed by any stretch of the imagination, but that's actually why we need 100 founding members, because I can't do this on my own. It's not something that is just going to happen overnight. It's going to need a whole group of people with a similar mindset and a similar set of values that want to make change happen and want to support others in our community, in the workplace, in our lives. And that's what the Changemakers Network is all about. So I hope that you will be inspired by that to and bring your own vision to this network. The 100 founding members are going to design exactly how we're going to operate. Together, we will create something that can quickly span the globe, because between us, we have networks all over the world. And the people in those networks are more than capable of being founders of the Changemakers Network in their community. So that's what this is all about. I hope that you will be inspired by what you're looking at and want to come and join us. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have a lot of laughs along the way, no doubt. All I want to say in closing really is thank you for listening and for joining in this week. A huge thank you to Jackie for being such a star all week and making everything happen in the background, and also to all of those change makers that have been involved throughout the week, not just presenting, but behind the scenes in trying to spread the word and get the message out, and encouraging you, if you're sitting on this right now, to get exposed to some of this thinking and to join us. So I'm going to pause there and just ask if you've got any questions to give us a nod now, and we'll see what comes up. So lovely, some very nice quotes there. Thank you. Actually, Ian's reminded me that I helped him uncover his core process of seeing the way a few years back. Absolutely. Great. Well, unless there's any immediate questions coming through, then I'm going to wish you a very good evening and have a fabulous weekend. And as I say, absolutely everyone on this call today, I would be delighted if you were going to come and join us in establishing this network and getting it off the ground, because I know there's some amazing people actually live on the call this evening, and I know that there are some amazing people who are going to be watching this on the replay too. So I look forward to working with you in that capacity as well. And that's it. Have a fantastic weekend. All the best.